Welcome one, welcome all to the SB Nation NFL show. A reminder before we get started that this show is brought to you by DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code SBNNFL for a special offer when you sign up. That's code SBNNFL only at DraftKings Sportsbook. As mentioned, this is the SB Nation NFL show. Just like today's date, 7-11, we are always open. You can always follow us or listen to us. You can watch us on the SB Nation NFL YouTube channel, the SB Nation NFL Facebook page, and as always, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Look for us, subscribe, leave a rating, write a review. This particular show on the SB Nation NFL show is Monday Football Monday. We get your week started. We talk about football. We have fun doing it. At least those are the things that we try to accomplish. I say we because I am RJ Ochoa from SB Nation Blog and the Boys, joined as always by our fantastic producer Rachel Prevet, and sitting in for Pete Sweeney, a more handsome version of Pete Sweeney, if I do say so myself, from SB Nation's Bolts from the Blue. You know him, you love him, you stand outside of his house when he sleeps, I trust. It is Michael Peterson. Michael, welcome back to Monday Football Monday. Two questions. Number one, how are you doing today? And two, what is your favorite kind of cheese?
I'm doing fantastic. A bit exhausted. Been traveling a lot recently to see some family, but good. Happy to be here. And then favorite cheese? That's such a tough question, man. I'm a big cheese enthusiast, man. I love trying new stuff. If we go kind of plain, I love just like simple pepper jack. I love the spice. I love throwing it on anything that I can. Big blue cheese guy when it comes to like wings and stuff over ranch. So I do like blue cheese. Dude, Gouda, Munster, everything. Like I'll take any cheese, honestly.
Yeah, I think if I'm putting the cheese on something, then pepper jack is my cheese of choice. If I'm eating it, like the little cubes or something like that, I really don't have a preference. Like there, I'm totally fine. Would you think blue cheese is a cheese? Like you would classify it as a cheese and not a dip? Because that's a different Pandora's box.
Well, I mean, like blue cheese dip is made with blue cheese, right? Like I don't know if you got me questioning all my thoughts now. Like blue cheese is a cheese. Is it not?
I know, but when you say blue cheese, I think of the dressing, like, or the dip. Like, like that's all. I don't ever think of the actual cheese. Like, I know they put blue cheese on salads and stuff, but still, like, so you can't say you're dipping your wings in blue cheese. You know what I mean? Like, it's blue cheese dressing or a blue cheese sauce or however, whatever category that falls under. That is a slippery slope, to your point. I know you've been busy, Michael, because you look like Baker Mayfield. In fact, I've never seen the two of you in the same room together. So, have you been traveling to the Carolinas as of late?
This is the second show in a row you want to bring up the Baker Mayfield stuff. Oh my god!
I just think you look like him. I don't. And the first time you and I ever did a podcast together, you wore glasses, and that really heightens. Like you're kind of like Clark Kent, Superman, except you put your glasses on and you become the person, unlike Clark Kent who takes them off. So.
Well, I'll tell you what. I actually 30 minutes ago, I shaved the big beard I had over the past 2 weekends. Again, traveling so much, I'm not taking care of myself, right? I let the thing go grizzly. I was in North Dakota, so I had to fit in somehow, this past weekend. But got rid of it, or else I probably would have looked a lot more rugged, grizzled, just ready to take on. We've been watching a lot of Alone recently. I would have fit right into that show as well.
Right. You would have woke up feeling dangerous to, speak like your other self. Right. Well, okay. So, Michael, today's show topic was actually inspired by you and your life and basically what you mean to this earth. We are going to talk about things that we wish did and did not happen over the course of this offseason. Your exact words were these are kind of the same thing. It just depends on how you word them. So, to get us started, to get this proverbial party started, we'll deflect to you. What do you wish did or did not happen over the course of the last few months?
Yeah, so I'm going to start I'm going to peek here, the first one. I think this is the most, staggering one to talk about. But I wish Tom Brady stayed retired. I said it. I don't know if there's some crossover, maybe you felt the same way, but I wish he stayed retired. I thought, finally after his long career, I think he won his 7th Super Bowl. I lose track, after all these years. He rides off into the sunset. He's solidified his legacy. Cool. And then I like when big kind of landscape shifting changes to the NFL happen, because I think it kind of re-energizes the fan base, the league. It gets you excited about how things will shake out and become like the new, I guess, meta of the NFL, right, in the next few years. It's energizing for me. I really enjoy stuff like that. And kind of like with movie series, right? Like you end a franchise and then they wait 20 years and all of a sudden they bring a movie back.
What a great comp. Fuller House. That's what you're saying Tom Brady is right now.
Well, like the thing is, when that happens, usually it's terrible. It never lives up to the original. You wish it never happened, blah blah blah. But like with Tom Brady, the thing is, you're not going to get that. You're still going to get Tom Brady. And I remember someone brought this up on Twitter. I wish I knew the handle that brought it up. Was like, we're never actually going to see, or at least it seems this way. We're not going to watch Tom Brady like take a step back and then that be kind of the precursor to him retiring. Tom Brady's going to go out seemingly on top, or as close to on top as it gets when it comes to NFL quarterbacks. Like, we're not going to see him throw a bunch of interceptions, lose the arm strength, or at least the talent, right? He just can't get it anymore. And then he retires, and that's kind of how we remember him. He's going to go out on top, whether it's after this year, next year, or whenever it is. Like, that's just what Tom Brady's going to get. So he's going to come back, and the sequel's going to rock. We know it's going to be good, right? Like, it's not going to be a Fuller House. It's not going to be you know what? It's going to be Top Gun Maverick, because that was apparently a really good movie. I have yet to see it, but everyone says it's phenomenal. So in terms of like bringing back a sequel years and years later, he's probably going to be Top Gun Maverick as opposed to a Fuller House, as you said.
Yeah, I really like this one. I love what you said about kind of landmark moments in the NFL, because it does add a different energy. And they're like seminal years where that happens. I've always looked at 2006 as one. That's the year that, not that this matters, but that Roger Goodell took over as commissioner, that NBC took over Sunday Night Football. And so like that changes things, right? Like that changes our perception. That was the year Tony Romo took over midseason as the Cowboys quarterback. So like that, personally impacted me and my fandom. So to your point as a whole, like we got all sorts of broadcasting changes right now that also incidentally involve Tom Brady. So like everything about how we watch football is going to be different in 2022. We're on the verge of it being incredibly different with the Sunday Ticket potentially heading towards some sort of streaming device or streaming platform next year. So maybe Tom Brady's kind of waiting for that domino to fall. But I'm with you. Like, I think that the Top Gun Maverick, I haven't seen it either, so I can't vouch for it being a great movie, but you're right. Is a great comp. I sort of feel like he's the Fast and Furious franchise. I think the last one I saw was Tokyo Drift, so I haven't seen all of them. I can't like sort of say whether or not they were good or not. I'm going to assume that they weren't. But he's just never ending. He's like a soap opera. He's like Days of Our Lives or like General Hospital or whatever that's been on for like 50 years. And I don't know that he's going to go out on top. And that's why when he did retire, I thought it was silly, because the state of the Falcons was so bad. The state of the Panthers, and your team obviously was so bad. The state of the Saints, Sean Payton, like how, if you're Tom Brady, like you're the biggest threat to you winning the division, loses its head coach, like how it never made sense for him to retire. And so if he's on top, he's just, I don't know that, I think he has to be, and that's why I think we see like the Peyton Mannings of the world play until they literally cannot anymore. Because if you have like 10% of a chance, these dudes bring themselves to the whole rite of passage again, because 10% is better than zero, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it absolutely does make sense. And I didn't even think about it that way, that like if he stayed retired, he's given up an opportunity to still dominate his division, right? I mean, this year, I think that, right, Sean Payton retired. Jameis Winston's the quarterback of the Saints. Again, like this is the team that probably is going to give you the most problems in 2022. Why not continue to ride this proverbial wave until you really can't? And I mean, again, I think this is his 45. He is 45 years old this year, I want to say.
Turning 45? Like, this is
45.
like, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's stupid, but yeah.
Right. It's the year he said he originally was going to retire, right? Like when he was 40 and he played the Eagles, he had that interview with Aaron Andrews where he's like, I think I'm going to play till 45. And so like when he did retire, we're like, okay, he just kind of actually stuck to this, loose timeline he had for himself. But again, it just doesn't make sense. Again, I say I wish he stayed retired, because it's just Tom Brady. And for a while, you're kind of tired of just on like the dominance, right? And like I root for it because it's history. If he still wins and wins more Super Bowls, I'm watching history happen. But at some point, you're like, okay, it's been 2 decades plus of this show. Let's just move on. But either way, I mean, it's right or wrong, good or bad. I wish he stayed retired because I want some new stuff. I don't know.
I love this. A year ago, after the Bucs won the Super Bowl, I wrote actually for SBNation.com. I just happened to be reading an old book that Gary Myers wrote about Peyton and Brady and kind of what used to be a rivalry. It turned into just like a one-sided thing. But in the book, it was written a long time ago, obviously. Brady was quoted as saying, you're not going to win 6 or 7 Super Bowls. And I happen to be like rereading this right after he won his 7th Super Bowl. So like, again, like he's defied even his own like wildest expectations, which is just whatever. I'm totally with you. Okay, I'm going to piggyback off of that and sort of stay in the NFC South. I wish that Sean Payton had found a new team. And I partially say this selfishly because now I have to deal with this all off season and all season and maybe all off season again long. Will Sean Payton coach the Cowboys? Blah blah blah. Like this is just he's lurking. Like he is just lurking, and I hate that this path has been created before very recently with Bruce Arians. So it's just going to be nonstop. Anytime we see Sean Payton, we're going to read into everything. And selfishly, again, I'm also happy because content is king. You know what I mean? And so I've got a lot of free stuff to work on over at Blogging the Boys. But at the same time, this is so annoying. I feel for Mike McCarthy. That's how I feel. I feel badly for him. So I wish Sean Payton had found a new home so we wouldn't have this it's just like this thing. We're not organized. It's like when, you can't go to bed because the light in the kitchen is on. That's how I feel. I don't feel settled with Sean Payton not being somewhere. I wish he had a team at a permanent home as of now that wasn't New Orleans.
Right. I actually agree with that. I like that light on in the kitchen thing as well, because obviously it was tied to the Cowboys, right? This offseason, a lot of it for some reason was Sean Payton coach the Cowboys. But I think this is something we're going to hear about pretty much this entire season, maybe even in the next season, depends on how hard he shuts the door going forward. But if you take any team that got much better this offseason, looks like a contender of some sort, maybe they have like a first-year head coach, second-year head coach. But if any of those teams fail to meet expectations at all, everyone and their mother is going to jump on that content train, which is, hey, if this continues and said head coach gets fired, can Sean Payton become the new head coach of this team? And I mean, any of those teams. So I think of something like the Broncos with Nathaniel Hackett doesn't cut it.
Right.
Immediately, Sean Payton could go there. Maybe with the Jaguars, if Peterson, for whatever reason, doesn't work out, again, Sean Payton goes to the Jaguars. There's just so many other teams that have a very talented roster, but a coach that's in their first or second year hasn't done anything just yet. And if things do go south enough, immediately someone's going to say, hey, Sean Payton here would be fantastic.
Yeah. The Jaguars thing would be wild. That would be insane.
Right.
Also, I mean, just a rough time for former Saints, I guess. I don't think Sean Payton feels badly for himself, but Drew Brees, we haven't really talked about one of the biggest losers of the offseason, Drew Brees, what with NBC not promoting him and basically moving on. Drew Brees got replaced by Jason Garrett in the post that he had at least last year with NBC. So tough times for Drew Brees. But anyway, your next one, Michael, things you wish or something you wish did or did not happen over the last few months.
Yeah, so obviously we weren't going to get through this without doing something that pertained to the teams that we cover ourselves. This one I was pretty upset with just based on how the rest of the offseason unfolded and where they sit now at this current position. But I wish the Chargers did not let Kaiser White, walk in free agency and sign for cheap elsewhere. So we signed a 1-year deal with the Eagles for $3 million guaranteed, can go up to $5 million. These numbers are nothing compared to what a lot of us thought around the Chargers that he would get elsewhere after a breakout season where he led the team in tackles. I think he had 144, which was the most, I think, in almost 2 decades for a Chargers defender. Led the team tied with 2 picks, second in tackles for loss. I mean, he was impactful. He was their most consistent defender at the second level. Besides him at the linebacker group, there's a lot of inexperience. There's just a lot of underwhelming play. And we knew the Chargers had a bunch of money, but we knew they needed to spend it at a lot of other places to shore up this defense, whether it's, the run defense on the back end. They had a lot of problems, so they threw that money at said problems. But they also spend money on some guys that are kind of maybe starters, maybe depth rotation guys. And if you just pluck one of those guys, take them off the team and put Kaiser White's contract, it fits right in, right? It's nothing. It's $3 million guaranteed, again, up to $5 million. And right now, the linebacker core is just so weak. It's just so underwhelming. Drew Tranquill is their head guy there. They did sign Troy Reeder, a former Ram, who never been a full-time starter. I think he's a good player, but I think he's not, again, a full-time 17-game guy. And then you got Kenneth Murray, who in 2 years has been extremely underwhelming for a first-round pick. Almost is a guy who, when he's on the field, the team is worse. He's not just a serviceable guy who goes in and gets the job done. Unfortunately, he has been very, very bad is the word. I think that's right. If you for any of you who hold PFF grades with a grain of salt, he was a 35.5, I want to say, overall grade. An average grade for PFF for just a guy in the NFL is between 60 and 70. 35 points roughly is his overall grade from this past season. Dealing with injuries as well. It's been a bad start. So long story short, it didn't make sense money-wise for the Chargers to let Kaiser White walk, just to have him sign somewhere else for pennies compared to the amount of money they had to start the offseason with.
This is interesting. This is definitely picking on your team, because I feel like most people would regard the Chargers offseason as rather successful. And I know you're not saying like it was a failure because of this, but
Yeah.
I mean, like, and I think like the Khalil Mack trade headlines that, like everyone kind of feels like, who cares? Like, you got Khalil Mack, like everything improved. Do you feel like, I mean, like what, how much did this like, how much does this like dampen the offseason as a whole? Like, if you had to grade the offseason, like how many points do you take away for letting him walk away specifically?
I mean, to be honest, I think it's still an A, right? You add Khalil Mack, you add J.C. Jackson, you add Sebastian Joseph Day. I mean, a lot of guys that, besides the headliners, right? You added some guys that will start right away, where you didn't have to break the bank. And I think that's, the most you can ask for. But you did all of that at the cost of leaving one whole position on your defense. And yeah, they usually only start 2 middle linebackers because they play a lot of nickel. So it's not like they needed 3 bona fide starters there. But you don't even have one bona fide starter at middle linebacker. Kaiser White was going to be that guy. This was a guy that a lot of people thought was snubbed for the Pro Bowl this past season. I mean, he was phenomenal. He was just like dealing with some injuries at the beginning of his career. But this was a huge breakout. So we just knew that, the best football for him was ahead of him. And it didn't make sense for that not to be with the Chargers. But overall, it's still an A. But I would give this, honestly, if Kaiser White stayed and they made roughly all the same moves, maybe one guy, rotational guy was gone, and then he brought Kaiser White back. I think it would be a real A+. I really do believe that they would have hit the head on all these positions, maybe not right tackle, but they shored up all 4 other positions right over the past 2 seasons. I still would give it a solid A.
Okay. Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, tough scene for the Chargers right now, taking some shots from Michael Peterson, but it is what it is. Okay, mine is staying somewhat local to yours, but a little bit different. And this kind of goes to your like, it's kind of both, like wish we had not happened. I'm sticking in LA, if that isn't obvious. I wish I was gonna say I wish the Bengals had won the Super Bowl, but I don't even really wish that. Like, I wish the Rams had not, and it has nothing to do with like hating the Rams or like whatever, but like, they're so boring. Like there's nothing like interesting about the fact that they won the Super Bowl. I am like happy that some all-time talents have championships now. Like Aaron Donald's career should not be spent without winning a championship. Jalen Ramsey's career, et cetera, et cetera. Cooper Kupp's, we're learning, obviously. There's so many players who deserved championships on that team, so I'm happy for that. But like, I don't think anybody really cares. Like, I don't think, like, is there a fan base that's like just like torn in pieces because the Rams won the Super Bowl? Like, I can tell you when the Giants or the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I was like, I hated those offseasons. Like, they were awful. Like, all I could do was wait to, experience the next season. And so I don't think anybody really cares. Like, there's this boring team. I don't know if it's the LA-ness. I don't know if it's just the team or the coach or Matthew Stafford or whatever. But I just kind of feel like normally we experience like a larger run of stories and points of interest in the team that won the Super Bowl, and that just isn't there for me. And I do think we would have that had the Bengals won it. I think the Joe Burrow, like we would have seen all sorts of like Instagram material from Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Even if, and I would not want this, but even if the 49ers had won the Super Bowl, if they'd won the NFC Championship game, we would be, the Jimmy G stuff would be catnip. It would be awesome to like, are the 49ers really going to give up on the quarterback who won the Super Bowl in favor of a second-year player who is barely even played in the NFL? That would be so interesting. If the Chiefs had won the Super Bowl, it would be, wow, they won 2 Super Bowls and they traded away Tyreek Hill, assuming that would still go on to happen. Like, if the Bills had won the Super Bowl, I mean, all these sorts of things. The Rams are so uninteresting to me.
Yeah, I think there's some of that I haven't thought about too much, but now that I kind of take a step back and try to put together my feelings, I think you're correct. And I mean, I think there's what's the word I'm looking for? A desensitization of the Rams because they're an LA team, right? They're in this, mecca of sports talent, right? And throughout the season, week 1 all the way through the playoffs, regardless if they were really doing well or not, we're hearing about the Rams. It's Sean McVay, it's Aaron Donald, it's Jalen Ramsey. We're constantly hearing about them week 1 and on. Okay. And then we know they're good. So when they are good and start doing that, it's not a surprise. When they won the Super Bowl, it's kind of the same way when the Lakers win the NBA championship, or any of the other LA teams do well. The Dodgers win the World Series. It's weirdly an expectation, despite whether they have been winning a bunch of them as of late. It's just something you expect to happen at some point in your life. So the Rams go and they win the Super Bowl, and it's like, that's cool. We kind of expected it. So like, there's nothing crazy about it. Again, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, they have these good players. You kind of expected it. I don't know. And it was the first time they've won it in a while. So it wasn't like Tom Brady who won his 7th, where that is something that brings the content train up, right? We can talk about how crazy it is. He won his 7th Super Bowl and how great Tom Brady is. But the Rams like did it, and people are just like, okay, yeah, they won. So I get that. And then for me, because I cover the other team in LA, similar to how you were talking about when like the Giants, the Eagles won the Super Bowl, it was kind of painful. And there's all these things that you think about that kind of take you down like this abysmal spiral. And of course, since the Chargers moved to LA, there was this whole loose fight for LA campaign, which is still kind of there. But like the Chargers have been behind the whole way they've been in Los Angeles. Even their first really good season back in 2018 when they were 12-4, right? The Rams still like did better. The Chiefs still did better. So like even when the Chargers have been good, they're teams that they always get compared to, where if the Chargers want to be elite, they have to beat said teams consistently. Those teams are still doing even better, no matter how good the Chargers were. So the Chargers are even further behind in this fight for LA thing because the Rams won the Super Bowl. So like, I mean, as a content guy for the Chargers, that's something I just always have to deal with, right? I can't hype up the Chargers too much and say all these things, because the first time I do that, someone's going to be like, well, like the other LA team won the Super Bowl. So like, why are you saying this? Like the Chargers haven't done anything, blah, blah, blah. And like, I have to deal with it. So I get it. And I get why you would feel that way for sure.
It's just like stale to me. It's just, like it's grilled chicken, brown rice, and asparagus. Like it's fine, like it's healthy, and it's, but like I want something tastier, I guess. I don't know what clip it was. I don't know if it was like on NFL Total Access or something, but right after Aaron Donald got his new contract, he was at SoFi Stadium, and like kind of on the field, they showed like this clip of him and doing the kind of last sack he did on Jimmy Garoppolo, where he pointed to like his finger, like, and did the like ring me motion or whatever. And the way he like he was like, oh, I remember it just like it was yesterday, and blah, and like he kind of reenacted it. I was like, I hope you remember like it was yesterday. It was just a few months ago. Like this wasn't like that long ago. I thought that was so weird. I know that Candlestick doesn't exist, but like if it did, if Joe Montana wants to run around there and be like, oh, I remember I was standing right here when I threw, Dwight Clark the catch. Like, okay, cool. That's the appropriate amount of time to kind of reflect on a long moment ago. But yep. Aaron Donald was like, man, I remember it just like it was yesterday. Dude, it was yesterday. So I feel like the league has tried to they have tried to make the Rams be fetch and be cool ever since they got to LA back in 2016. They've long wanted it to be like, ooh, LA, the fight for LA, new NFL Network headquarters, and blah, blah. And it just doesn't like slap the way they want it to. And so it's boring. It's whatever. Congrats. And they weren't even like, I thought it was so cool when I was really obviously rooting for the Vikings in the NFC Championship game in 2017, because I wanted to see a team win the Super Bowl in their home stadium. I wanted to see that at one point. It was awesome when the Bucs did that, and so now it's like the Rams did it too. Like you didn't even give us like any grace period to like enjoy that. You did it right away, and now they're going to be like, we also won the NFC Championship game. It's just boring. It's boring to me. Whatever. Your next one.
All right, so let's see. I don't know if we're going to have a differing opinion on this one, but I thought this was just kind of crazier the more I thought about it. I wish the NFL did not suspend Calvin Ridley indefinitely through the 2022 season after he bet on games. I think that was way too much, and I think it was for sure we got to make an example of this guy, right? Like I think it's such a rare occurrence that a player gets accused and found guilty of doing such things. And so the NFL, which has always been a good old boys club, it's always been traditional, and this is for some reason one of those sacred things that once that line was crossed by somebody, they had to absolutely bring the hammer down. Now, he was away this past offseason, right, for his mental well-being. He wasn't with the team. He was away from the facility. And I think it was in November in like a 5-game period or something like that. He was betting on games. It was a $1,500 total that he bet on all these games.
It was a parlay. It wasn't even like just a Falcons game. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Falcons were included, but like it was,
right.
They were a 5-team parlay, whatever. And it was just $1,500. It wasn't like he was betting house money and all this stuff, like his whole, going all in on any of this, or on any of these bets, excuse me. It was just weird. Like, I don't know how you don't look at the history of the NFL and see countless other players get accused or brought up on way worse, charges or incidents, or just, and these people get like slaps on the wrist. They get, a 6-game suspension, which isn't even half the season. And if anything, like I know he probably should have been smarter, right? He shouldn't have done it on his personal phone. He should have just maybe played it safe, but like he was literally not with the team. He might as well have just been some other dude on the street, right? Like he stepped away from the game per se. And so he just thought probably it was fine. I don't know, but it was indefinite. It wasn't just like, hey, this one season you're gone. It's indefinite. He can appeal the suspension next February in 2023. It just seemed like a lot. I don't know. It just seemed weird.
So to set up my answer, I live my life by something that I call the purple pants rule. We love our jobs, right? And if in our contracts, when we signed them, if our contract said, hey, Michael, you can, we'll pay you this money to do all these duties, whatever, you cannot wear purple pants to work on Wednesdays. That would be weird considering, the way our jobs work, but whatever. And you signed the contract, like that's a dumb rule, right? Like you can't wear purple pants to work on Wednesdays. But if you did it, like if you signed the contract and then you wore purple pants to work on Wednesdays, like who's wrong? Like who's the dummy? Like we can sit here and debate like how stupid the rule is, but you knew the rule, you broke it. So like, my general like thought process on that is like you should embrace the or not embrace, but like you should accept the punishment because you knew what was going on. As my dog barks at the mail in the background. And so like on one hand, okay, Calvin Ridley, you knew the rules, like you knew the way the NFL felt about this, whatever. Like these are separate arguments. So like this is something where like multiple things can be true. So I understand that like the black and whiteness of it all, like he broke the rule, fine. Obviously, you want to punish him for that, okay, fine. That's fair. That's within the boundaries of what happened here. It is excessive, right? And to your point, it is like seemingly wanting to make an example of. It is a little hypocritical given the NFL's sort of acceptance of gambling, right? Obviously, there's a can of worms to be tipped over with players being involved and whatnot. It's just kind of, not to bring it all the way back to the Cowboys, but Tony Romo, that's American Century Championship winner, Tony Romo, by the way, Michael. He had I don't know if you remember this, he had a fantasy football convention he wanted to have in Las Vegas. Yeah. And the NFL was like, no way, we're not doing it. You can't do this, blah, blah, blah. And that convention would go on to happen in Dallas, but the NFL has since put a team in Las Vegas, held the draft in Vegas, and they were so concerned about that. So I guess I wish, if I had to like apply a thought here, I wish I had more information. I wish the NFL had explained itself more. I wish the NFL had maybe justified itself. Like, why do you feel like a season is the appropriate punishment? I just wish I had a little bit more meat on that bone. I bet you, though, that, no pun intended, that the NFL wishes they hadn't done that, because we still have yet to hear any, and this is a different subject, but any sort of news or any actual suspension on Deshaun Watson. And it's seemingly no secret that the NFL wants Deshaun to play, right? The NFL wants its stars. The NFL wants its product to be great. And I think that people will rightly, heavily criticize them if they don't, if they've suspended Calvin Ridley an entire season for this, and then Deshaun Watson with the like mountain of, alleged evidence or involved evidence. I don't know the exact legal term for what's going on here. Working against him, if he gets a fraction of the suspension that Calvin Ridley gets, as well as I do, the people will come out and say, you suspended Calvin Ridley for this, and you're not suspending, Deshaun Watson an equal amount when he did X, Y, and Z, whatever. So I think the NFL has painted itself into a corner. But on another hand, I don't think the NFL really cares. I think the NFL is fine being hypocritical, and they don't care because people are going to use and watch and consume their product no matter what.
Yeah, I have to agree. And I like the purple pants thing. I've never actually quite heard that metaphor before. But yeah, like a punishment is valid. He did it. Punishment should have happened.
Yeah, he knew the rule. Like, to that point, he broke the rule consciously. Okay, we can have the discussion. But you're right. It doesn't have to be like aggressive. Again, if assuming what the reported information is true.
Right. Yeah, I agree with it. Again, you brought up the Deshaun Watson stuff. Like, we don't know what's going to happen to him, but there's going to be quite an outcry, right? If he's not suspended at least one whole season. And then if he even gets one whole season, that's still the same as Calvin Ridley. And if anything, if they don't do it indefinitely like Calvin Ridley, then Calvin Ridley's is technically worse because he still has to appeal and there's a chance for it to be longer. So like, you're right. They painted themselves into a corner. It has to be something quite substantial, or else there's going to be a lot of finger pointing, a lot of comparisons that are like, you just can't do this. But again, it all doesn't matter if the NFL simply doesn't care, which they've kind of proven time and time again. They don't.
Okay, so another one from me. This pains me, and I've danced, or I wouldn't say dance. I've like outright screamed about this. I wish that the NFL had not acquiesced to the Buffalo Bills. Oh my gosh, we lost because of a coin toss in overtime. I hate this. I am not a fan of the adjustment. There is going to be an instance. It may not be this season, But at some point in the future, Michael, a team is going to lose an overtime game that they otherwise would have won if the Buffalo Bills had not whined and complained. And I like the Bills, all right? No offense to you, but I would love to see the Bills win the AFC. I'm all in. I love Josh Allen, love Von Miller, love Stephon Diggs. Obviously got the Diggs thing going on here. I mean, so like I love the Bills, but this kind of makes me hate them. Like this one thing, like I hate that they're like, and their fans are like, oh my gosh, if not for the coin toss, you had they had an opportunity to win that game. Like everybody like conveniently forgets that. And so I hate that the NFL, like is corroborating that behavior, is almost like rewarding and justifying that behavior. Like if you whine and complain, I can tell you, like, it sucks when you lose a playoff game that like on a sort of circumstantial thing. Dez caught it. Like, hello. I mean, that's my life. But I mean, this is stupid to me. And I think the football karma of it all, Michael, is going to come back. And I'll even say the Chargers are going to win a playoff game against the Bills because of this rule reversal. Now the Bills they're going to score on the first possession, and they otherwise would have won, and then another team's going to come back and score against them, and Brandon Staley's going to go for two the way he likes to and get the dub.
As exciting as that would be, wow, over the Bills. Incredible. Yeah, I have to agree. Because wasn't it, I think it was 2019, was it the Colts beat the Chiefs? And then there was the same thing. The Chiefs kind of complained that it was a coin flip thing because the Colts got the ball first and they had a really good rushing attack. And so they just kind of punched it down the field, punched it in, and all of a sudden they won that game. So it was weird to see the Chiefs kind of on the other end of this thing. Yeah, I just have to agree. I don't like the complaining. I think this is one of those situations where when said thing happens, it can feel so bad. It just, gut wrenches you because it's so easy for fans and even people on the team who were this close to obviously winning that game to point at this, and this. But like they want to just point at the coin toss. Well, it's like there's a laundry list of things that probably could have went different in that game. And this is kind of me as a player or losing close games or any sort of competition is like, don't let it get to the point where that can be the deciding factor. If you didn't want it to go into overtime and then you have to worry about whether you guys get the coin flip or not, don't allow it to go into overtime. And I know this can be like, it sounds like a huge oversimplification, right?
Right.
But I just think instead of getting messy and playing mind games and trying to justify and stretch and be flexible in that way, just like, let's just Occam's razor, straight to the point. Just don't let it get there. You guys are talented. You had them right where you wanted. I mean, the Chargers, I've watched them countless times blow fourth quarter leads, right? I mean, I think 16 points, 17 points, 2 touchdown type leads they've blown in the fourth quarter repeatedly. So it's like, I know what it's like to look at a team fail to just like finish it, right? And so just don't do that. Like it almost feels hard to throw those types of leads and stuff like that. But like, I know, again, oversimplification. Just don't allow yourself to be in a position where a coin flip decides the game. You're professionals, you're adults. Do what you need to do.
It's simple. I mean, like, and I know I sound like we were talking about baseball before we started recording and streaming. I sound like the like baseball purists that are like, you can't have doubleheaders be 7 innings. Like you're going to ruin the statistics and the data and the history and things like that. I hate that. Like, I've been to one Super Bowl game in my lifetime, and it was Super Bowl 51, 28-3. And that would be a different game now, right? Because, like, the team, like, the Patriots scored after winning the coin toss. The Falcons, like, I hate that. Like, I hate that we're going to look at, like, games and times and things. Like, you can't play with stuff like this. Like, you're playing God with football, and I just don't like that. So, I don't like that energy surrounding the Bills. You know what? I'm reconsidering my stance on if I want them to win the AFC. Like, I'm so upset and bothered by this. The more and more I think about it, that I might have to pick a different team to win the conference. And so that's a TBD situation for me. But what is your next thing, Michael?
Yeah, one last comment. If I was the Bills, I mean, I think I couldn't gut or stomach the fact of I guess complaining in that way, whether they want to think of it that or not. They need to use it as motivation, come back, and simply have the mindset of, if we're in that position, we're not going to let it happen again. We're never going to let that get to a coin flip. We're not going to OT in any of our games. Like, this should be the motivation, right? That's just my final word on the whole matter. So my last one, or my second to last one, number 4. And this is like specific with like players and teams for me. And I think I'm going to throw it to you for your own team and kind of example if you have one. But this is, I wish the Chiefs did not draft Leo Chanel, the linebacker from Wisconsin. It's very specific, but Chenal was like probably my favorite defensive prospect in this year's draft. He's a big tail kicker, 6'2", almost 260 pounds linebacker who did most of his damage kind of like between the tackles, right? Like this guy just lined up over All-American centers and guards and stuff and just had their way with him, right? I'm a University of Iowa alum, so I watched this guy play against the Hawkeyes and absolutely kick our tails. So 18 and a half tackles for loss, 8 sacks. This is like earlier in the show, we were talking about how the Chargers need linebacker help, or at least I was, right? The Kaiser White drama. He was available for the Chargers multiple times. They kept passing on him. And in my head, I'm like, okay, well, if he goes somewhere else, because it seems like the Chargers aren't going to draft him, I just don't want it to be a team in the AFC West. And it literally just happened to be the Chiefs. So, like, I mean, you as a sports fan watching players who you know are good, some of your favorite draft prospects, I'm sure it's happened before, go to a team that you just cannot stand. And you know you're going to see that player potentially multiple times a game if it's within the division. Like, it was just gut-wrenching, and now I have to watch this guy, and I just know for a fact he's going to do well against the Chargers. It's just kind of how things always work out. They needed him, and yet they passed, and they watched him go to like the worst-case scenario, which was the Chiefs.
I like this as our shared number 4, like isolating on our own specific teams for a moment. That's a great example. And it's funny that it would, again, not just be in the AFC West, like not just an AFC team. It would be like the Chiefs. It would be like the hurdle that the Chargers can't get over, blah, blah, blah. Like in the last year, I've, talked to a lot of Eagles fans, and this doesn't apply to BLG, but a lot of, done different podcasts and things like that. There's a lot, I don't think this is shocking. There's a lot of Eagles fans who root for Penn State. So for years, they had to deal with Sean Lee being on the Cowboys. Then he retires, and like, boom, Micah Parsons is now on the Cowboys. So like you're to your point, like somebody who you loved as a college football player for your team, your school, whatever, now goes to like literally your arch rival. That is always an annoying thing. I don't have an emotional, I know you're not a Wisconsin alum, but I don't have an emotional connection. The Cowboys drafted a Badger, by the way, Jake Ferguson. So, hope he tore up the Hawkeyes to a point that it made you sad, at least. But I was really annoyed. There's the one draft pick that is, I don't know that there's like always that lottery ticket lurking, but there's always that like one person that one team takes. You're like, if they hit on that, like that's the steal of the draft. And Nakobe Dean was that. And I was really annoyed that the Eagles are the team that wound up with him, especially after they had drafted Jordan Davis and all the like pre-draft love for him and traded for AJ Brown. So it's like this, are you serious? Like, like this is like, so it's annoying that, and that's one of those like, It's annoying if somebody goes on like Micah Parsons, whatever. But if you're a different team, you're like, well, we never had a chance at Micah Parsons, whatever. But like Nakobe Dean is somebody who everybody passed, right? Like everybody was like, no, I don't want that. Like I'm not taking that risk, whatever. And so it's one of those like, man, that could have been us. Like if we were brave enough, if we were bold enough, that could have been us. And so that is the one that bothers me. That's like lurking in the back of my mind. So I hate that preemptively. So that was a good question. I like that one. Like a share. So I'm like kind of stealing that as my number 4 as well, if you're okay with that.
Okay. Yeah, that's totally
okay,
fine. So we're right back.
Do you want me to set you up for the last one and give you my 5th?
Sure, go ahead.
I think we should, because this was your idea. Okay. So I really like drama. I don't know if that's like a shocker or anything. And I like drama on television. I used to really like Grey's Anatomy before it got like too much. Like I'm cool with like some level of distortion of reality. I'm watching a television show after all. I love Big Brother just came back. Welcome Big Brother back to our lives. It's the summer of Big Brother. I love The Challenge on MTV. I love the petty drama. Like, let's do it. Like I want to sit here with my snacks, my wife and I, and like critique it all and break it all down and everything. I feel like I was so pumped. We were all so pumped because this was going to be the offseason of petty drama in the NFL, and we didn't get anything. Like none of it like lived itself out. Aaron Rodgers just went back to the Packers. Boom, boring. Kyler Murray goes on this big like thing with his Instagram, blah blah. What happens? He's back with the Cardinals. Like nothing. Even Lamar Jackson, I don't think he's been dramatic about anything, but like that situation is so stale and boring. Like we had these like incredible things to work with from a drama standpoint, and we haven't gotten any of them. It's like when you get one of those movies like Valentine's Day or New Year's Day, and you get all these like A-list actors, and then it just flops. Like that's what I feel like this offseason has been. I was so excited for the drama, and it just was boring.
Yeah, what's funny about this is I agree, but then I look at maybe that little bit of Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes drama where Tyreek was like, there hasn't been a lot of petty drama. I'm going to stir it up out of nowhere. So here's this quote of me saying that like I would take Tua in this very important aspect of quarterback play, which I believe was accuracy, and say that I would take my new quarterback over my old quarterback who, was a record breaker, Super Bowl winner, makes crazy, incredible magician type throws. But like, even though I experienced that and was on the other receiving end, of those catches, I'm still going to say this new guy I haven't played with in a real NFL game is more accurate than Patrick Mahomes. And he just said, let's do it. Let's just start some drama. And so there was a little bit, I wouldn't say it like set the offseason on fire or anything like that, but there was a little back and forth. Mahomes responded. Tyreek Hill, I think, said it had another response or something like that, and it kind of died out. But you're totally correct. There really wasn't anything petty, which goes a long way at this point in the offseason when there's literally nothing to talk about.
Yeah, shout out to Tyreek for trying. I mean, the only person who put forth any real effort towards giving us some drama, some pettiness, some sort of like taste. Again, it all started with the Rams. Had the Bengals won the Super Bowl, I guarantee you, petty all over the place. Like we now live in this timeline because the Rams won the Super Bowl, which is super boring and stale and healthy for us, which is stupid. But that's my number 5, and I stand by it. What's your number 5, Michael? It better be great. Remember, the MF double MVP is up for grabs.
Well, dang, I shouldn't have started off with Tom Brady, I guess, to begin this whole thing. So it's kind of similar to my number 4 in theme, but I wish the Raiders did not trade for Devonte Adams. Again, it's a little personal. It is something that I don't want to have to deal with as a content creator for a team that will see Adams twice a year now. He could have went to any other division, could have went to a lot of other teams that could have used his services, but he lands up in the AFC West. And obviously the euphoric feeling I had and the rest of the division when Tyreek Hill went away from the Chiefs and joined the Dolphins was phenomenal, right? We were all dancing in the streets. It was a really good time. Free drinks, free bar. It was great. And then Devonte Adams comes to the AFC West, and that feeling is just washed away. We have to deal with arguably the best receiver in the NFL now, who's a different player from Tyreek Hill, but he's still just as disruptive. He's still going to make your team look as bad as Hill did at times. So this is really unfortunate. The Chargers may have upgraded a cornerback, but like Adams is still Adams, right? J.C. Jackson is great. Bryce Callahan, who would name you, but this is still Devonte Adams. It was just unfortunate. I've watched the Chargers for a long time, watched the division around them get better in a lot of facets, and the Chargers each offseason kind of didn't really care about matching their moves, right, in this chess match. One team got better, so the other teams kind of like tried to retaliate and get better somehow, some way. And then all of a sudden the Chargers get better, right? They're the team that is adding all this star talent. But then literally every single team in the AFC West was like, yeah, okay, we got to get better too. And they make these splash moves, Russell Wilson, Devonte Adams, everything. So it just sucks that like the Chargers just have been behind the ball, and to watch these teams still continue to get better and like keep the parity within the AFC West pretty much even has been really unfortunate, because this could have been a big year for the Chargers, right? They could have won the offseason and then the teams didn't really do enough. No, they're all the same. And Devonte Adams is just a big reason why that's not the case.
I really like this one. I think this is a really strong one to end on. I know it's similar to your 4th, but it is different. What it reminds me of, I'm not saying anyone like feels poorly or feels badly for LeBron James, but I always thought it was like funny or interesting or like tragic in like a drama sense how when he returned to Cleveland, right? Like that was like LeBron like having gone Super Saiyan, or like second part LeBron in Cleveland was like the absolute peak of his powers, right? Like et cetera, et cetera. And I thought and like, okay, I'm ready. Like I'm finally able and willing to do this on my own, whatever. And so like the story's there. Okay, here we go. And that literally coincides with the birth of the Golden State Warriors dynasty. You know what I'm saying? Like if that had happened at any other moment in history, like we're talking about a different dynasty in Cleveland that LeBron single-handedly, and to his credit, you know, won a championship in the second season there. But like, I always thought that like it was, again, call it funny or tragic or interesting or whatever, that just was super unfortunate for LeBron that happened. And so like in a weird way, that's what's happening to the Chargers, right? Like, okay, we've got our stuff together. We got the franchise quarterback. We got the coach who's willing to do all this stuff. We've got the resources. We've got the quarterback on the rookie contract. Like, let's go all in. And everybody else is just like trying to do that same thing. I certainly don't feel badly for John Gruden, but I do think it was interesting too, in that like in a similar sense, his return to the Raiders is like big old effort literally coincided with the beginning of Patrick Mahomes' career. You know, like you just got to feel like, man, I've got some pretty bad luck. Again, not to feel badly for John Gruden, but yeah, so Chargers kind of in a similar boat. But you know what? That makes it all a little bit more worth it if you do wind up winning. And so we'll see if that's the case for the Chargers. But yeah, I will tell you, if I were a Chargers fan, I would prefer Derek Carr and Devonte Adams as a threat over Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. So I do think you still came out like with a net positive.
Right. Yeah, I'd say so. Again, we kind of talked about, I think I shared my opinions on Tyreek Hill last show we were on, and just how much of a cheat code he was. And like Adams can seem like a cheat code at times, but like he's still within like an athletic profile, someone that you believe you should be able to handle like defenses kind of scheme for and stuff like that. But I guess time will tell. I mean, he's with his college quarterback. I don't know if this unlocks a different level of Devonte Adams. Obviously, Carr is not Aaron Rodgers. I got to hope Carr is very much not Aaron Rodgers this season. But yeah, I totally agree.
Okay, Rachel, it's time for you to grace us with your presence. As always, last time Michael was on, you, some would say prematurely, handed him the MF double MVP. None of those people are here, though, of course. Your favorite points that we made, your thoughts, also what cheese is your favorite, and who has won the MF double MVP.
I was waiting to answer the cheese question. Neither one of you answered this. And I personally think mozzarella is like one of the top cheeses. I could eat string cheese every single day. It's so delicious.
Do you pull this like the strings off, or do you just bite it?
I have to pull them. You gotta pull them.
Bite it.
It creates an experience. It creates an experience.
My wife hates me.
So much time.
Bite it.
No.
I'm with you, Michael.
Okay. But no, I really enjoyed both of the points. I think Michael came out with some really, really strong points. I loved how you started with Tom Brady. I think that just set the tone. So I was like, RJ, you got to come harder. But you had a really good point. You had a really good point when you touched on the coin flip with the Bills. I think that was probably like your strongest take, RJ. So good job with that one. The lack of drama, I feel like the Deshaun Watson stuff in itself has like been enough drama for everybody. So even though it hasn't been like a bunch of drama from every organization, that consistently is like enough. You know?
I will say though that's literally true, but not the drama I want. You know what I mean? I want good, fun drama, not disgusting.
Yeah, pettiness, not the ones you want to wish it never happened in the first place.
Right, exactly.
It's just unfortunate.
Fair. But when it comes to my list, I feel like I have to give the MF double MVP to Michael again because RJ, you know this. You've been doing this longer than he has. There is no sharing. You shared number 4. I was like, what? What do you mean we're sharing?
I didn't share. I made it my own point. I even shouted out the Eagles, and I said the N'Kobe Dean pick was awesome. Like again, I mean, it's cohesion. I mean, it's synchronization. Like I'm all about cross continuity. I mean, geez.
Fair.
Wow. Sorry. I am a company man. All right. I stood up for our company that we all work for, and you guys just hate the company. Vox, I hope you're listening. These guys don't love you as much as I do. So yeah.
Never.
Hey.
Oh man.
Oh wow. I came prepared with
locked and loaded, baby. You know I keep that thing on me. I'm a company man.
Yes.
That's a sore spot for me, Michael. The Vox swag. Rayshawn knows that story, but that
why
was,
you didn't get your fun pack this past Christmas? You didn't get like your voucher for your Fox Media stuff.
I did not. I would just like this is a whole separate discussion. I don't like email sucks. Like who likes email? Like you want to communicate with me? Text me, call me, DM me, Slack me.
Those are want to reach you.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Kim Possible and Ron Stoppable. Like email is the worst way to communicate with me. Like I just do not like it. I don't believe in it. It's so tedious to me as opposed to any other method of communication. And apparently, Michael, that information came in through an email that I missed. So I'm a little sore about it. But I'm happy you got the hat. Rachel got the duffel bag, as we learned. So.
I did.
Well, no, everyone got the duffel bag. That was a separate thing.
In the little mug.
No, I got that duffel bag. I'm talking about the Vox duffel bag. So.
Oh, okay.
I got the mug and the T-shirt.
I got a shirt, 2 hats, and the mug. And honestly, I use that mug like every other day. That's a solid mug.
Me too.
That's a solid mug.
You guys suck a lot.
I can send you a hat, RJ. Do you like white? Do you like white hats?
You know what, Michael? I want to earn my hat. All right, I want to, I don't want to be like the Buffalo Bills and like win in some fluky way. You know what I mean? Like I want a for real, authentic sort of experience. So you know what? I've decided I'm out on the Bills. I can't support them. I can't. I just no. I'm so bothered by that. Like it's stupid to me. You affected everyone. It's like if we were all in a car together and then Pete showed up and we were like, hey, we're gonna go to Chili's for dinner. And Pete was like, I don't believe in Chili's. I want to go to Saltgrass. Like no, we had a group decision. We were gonna go to Chili's. And then we are appeasing one person. I hate that the league is appeasing and catering to one team.
Yeah, I'd honestly hate that too because I want $10 free appetizers and drinks and $1 Long Island iced teas. And he comes in, he's just like, no, let's go to this vegan place and grab, whatever, the falafel. Like, no, I want terrible wings with $1 margarita. Leave me alone, Pete.
Last thing as we head out, I don't know if either of you saw this on Twitter, but because Pete's not here, we have to talk about it. He, I guess there's like a hot dog race at Royals games. Like people dress up in hot dog outfits and run races. And so I think somebody dresses up as like the ketchup, somebody dresses up as the mustard, and somebody's the relish. So like the uniforms are like different colors, and they just run like I don't know if it's a full lap or whatever. Pete was the relish, and our guy Pete Sweeney cheated. He cheated. He broke early, broke before the word go. There's video evidence of this, and still lost. Yeah, this was like Friday or Saturday. He broke early and lost. How could he?
Who? Which condiment?
I think ketchup won, but he was relish, and which I'm fine with. Like, I'm not a relish guy, so like if you want to shame that name, go for it. But Pete Sweeney cheated and lost, and had no shame about it. Had absolute no shame. It was really, really stunning to me. So we'll have to get the full story. But I mean, it was a really bad look. Pete is supposed to be an ambassador for Monday Football Monday, and he brought shame to our name. Just remember that, Rachel. Next time you hand it on MFWP, I mean, I'm cool with Michael winning it, but like
I will.
I mean,
I know this is only my second show, but I will never forgive Pete for that. I'm pretty set on that. I will never forgive Pete Sweeney for that.
If we were the three flavors, Michael, he would be the relish. I think you'd be the mustard, and I'd be the ketchup because I don't like mustard either.
I'd do stone ground. It'd have to be stone ground mustard. I like yellow on Cubans and stuff, but like for a dog.
Okay. I can respect that. Congratulations to our MF double MVP. Some would say our MF triple MVP, the most valuable Monday Michael most player. I've lost track of it.
Just keep going.
Congratulations on your second. You're literally 100% batting average. Like you're 1,000 hitter right now here to stick with the baseball team we talked about. So way to go, Rachel. Questionable decision there at the very end, but still otherwise. Also the mozzarella thing.
So good.
Listeners, what is your favorite type of cheese? Rachel's on Twitter at Rachel Monique. Michael's on Twitter at Zone Tracks. I am on Twitter at RJ Ochoa. We would love to hear your favorite kind of cheese. Michael and I ride for pepper jack. But Michael, the final words, however many you want, belong to you, but they have to be amazing. So go for it.
Oh, they're not going to be amazing. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Thank you again, Rachel. You know what? Like I said last time, if you just stick to the fundamentals, you just work day in and day out on the stuff. It all adds up one step at a time. RJ, I love you talking about you love your petty drama and the shows you watch. It just makes so much sense because when we have meetings, the chat and the Zoom is just filled with RJ with zingers. It's just the second anybody says anything that he could turn to a zinger and kind of undercut you a little bit, he does it. It makes the meetings really interesting. It makes them really funny. Sometimes I wish I was a little more like RJ. I wish I was like quicker on my feet and just dishing these things out. But not everyone is as talented as this guy is. Your opening,
Michael, you deserve it. Definitely good for you. Good, well said.
I'll tell you what, I was gonna ask at the beginning, but like your openings, because like we were just kind of talking about like nothing, and then you're like, all right, let's go, and then you like rattle on everything you're opening. Of course, there's like the sponsor stuff, but then you say like 1,000 lines about me introducing me, and I'm like, did you just make this up on the spot, or do you have it written down? Because it just doesn't sound like something that anybody could make up on the spot. But I guess you're just so talented. And I have
a Microsoft Word document with 6,000 different ways to introduce you, Michael. So I pick one from there.
Nice.
Did you is Baker Mayfield at the top and you were lazy today? So you just
well, he's a part of like 4,312 of them. I mean, for obvious reasons. But, just it's kind of a spin the wheel thing.
I'll tell you something interesting real quick. Quick story. It's kind of about Baker Mayfield. It's actually about his brother. My first time going to Mobile, Alabama to cover the Senior Bowl, my final flight to Mobile got canceled because of fog. And I ended up meeting some people in the airport. We were kind of hanging out until we went to find an Airbnb for the night. But I met this wonderful woman named Kennedy Mayfield, or she's now Kennedy Mayfield, but Kennedy Kurtz, she was going there. She was a intern for Bleacher Report. And the very next morning, she was on a different flight than us, but she met Baker on his way to go to the Senior Bowl. So anyway, that was cool. We just thought that was a fun incident. And then she ends up getting to meet his brother, Matt, and they are now married.
Whoa!
Wow! I tell
so
you what,
I was,
it's your look, dude. You put a psychological level on her. You know what I mean? To be looking for like a Mayfield. Like I'm telling you implanted something. There you go.
It was insane. Like shout out to you. Her name was Kennedy Kurtz at the time, but like she literally met Baker. I remember she sent a picture of Baker to me the next morning. Was like, look who I ended up with. You guys weren't on this flight with me, so
you were like, how'd you get this photo of me? Yeah.
Right. And then like, you connect on social media and stuff. So I just like watched her like meet her brother and then get engaged and then married and all this stuff. I think they've been married for about a year or so now, but it's like, just to remember like, oh, I was there for this like love story that kind of involves Baker Mayfield. Right. So like, dude, the world is so small.
It is.
Wow. Well, shout out to Kennedy, shout out to Michael, shout out to Baker, I guess. And shout out to the word toast. It's a good word. Rachel, you're the best. We'll see you all next week.